It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 391. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hi.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Bel, you sweet summer child.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hi there.
Wait a second. What?
Kodra seems to think I have no clue what poppers are, but like I was making compound words. I did it earlier for an equally I did it later for an equally dangerous combination somebody else got.
What? It's a food stuff. It's like jalapeno poppers, right?
It was like pizza
That's all
poppers.
it
Yeah.
is.
Sounds delicious.
Nothing else.
Anyway, that was a weird thread.
It was.
Topic that got skipped last week because Kodra wasn't here. Actually, no, 2 weeks ago. You have been teaching
I have been
Pokemon TCG?
Yes, I've been teaching my son how to play Pokemon TCG. There's a really good intro deck. It has three very, very good, one is an Pikachu V deck, one is an Eevee V deck, and the other is a Cinderace V deck, which only has one V Pokemon, thankfully, in each of them. Unlike, any deck that you're going to see in actual Pokemon now. But no, it's been really fun to play. It is definitely a very well-designed game, I think. It does a great job at, being something you can teach to a very young child.
I mean, it's been a very, very long time since I played the Pokemon card game.
I have
remember
not
it being
played it.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I've not played it since the original round of starter decks. Way back in the day.
Yeah.
But a lot of the current mechanics did not exist when I last played.
Yeah, that is pretty clear. I play. I mean, my entire play history was while it was a Wizards game, so it's been a very long time.
Yeah, exactly. I do not know of any changes that have happened since Wizards lost the license.
There's clearly all sorts of hyper mega whatever, all the different things where you can make your Pokemon hooge and stuff. None of that was in there.
Yeah, well, also there are the V and the G Max and all of that. Not a huge fan of it, honestly, but the game is really fun. If you're just playing where you're trying to evolve a Pokemon up to a stage 3, or even using one of the normal single stage Pokemons, it's very fun. But it's very easy to teach, I would say.
That makes sense, considering that when I started playing it, I was 10 or 11. I guess I was 11.
I assume this is now a regular occurrence.
Yeah, so we've been playing it a lot, and really enjoying ourselves doing that. He really likes the Eevee deck. We haven't really branched out. He wants to start collecting, so we're gonna probably start doing that. But there's enough tactical back and forth and interesting things going on that I really like. It's a great way of teaching math skills and trying to think ahead a couple of turns, so that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I did briefly peek in on what the state of the meta was.
And you won't be doing that again?
Is it silly?
It's very silly.
Yeah, so there will be no going to the card shop to play for a while. I think that's awesome.
It's great.
I remember when I taught my cousins to play Magic, and that was fun. Because I was significantly older, and I remember building specific decks to make it easier.
I do think Magic is definitely a harder game to teach. That's something I'm realizing. Pokemon, much better entry level game.
Yeah.
There's way less conditional stuff going on in Pokemon that I remember.
Well, and you also don't have as much, like, you have no ability to interrupt the opponent's turn.
I mean, that's honestly like one of the things that made Hearthstone much easier for a brand new player to pick up was that, there was just your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn.
Yeah. And I really enjoy it. And there is actually a format I'm kind of interested in, which is specifically the one that does not allow you to play VG Max or V Max Pokemon.
Does it still let you play EX Pokemon?
I don't think it lets you play EX Pokemon either.
Interesting. So yeah, no Pokemon that you get more than one prize card for defeating.
Correct. Pokemon as Garfield intended it.
Look, TPCI doesn't even know how they intend the games to work. You think they know how they intend the card game to work?
So there's a game that I have been interested for quite some time, and I think Ash, you and Tam played it at some point. But I ended up picking this up, and I ended up conning Grace into giving it a shot, and that is Gunfire Reborn.
I have picked this up, but I have barely played it.
So I'm sure it has evolved a lot over the rather lengthy pseudo early access that it's been going through, because like it has made a lot of changes over the years. But we played, I don't know, 3 rounds, I guess you would call them. Like, basically you go in and you try and survive as long as you can.
It's a roguelike shooter.
Yep. And you slowly over time unlock a number of characters that have different abilities that they bring to the table. You start off as this cat with the ability to freeze enemies for a period of time, and then as you roam the levels, you pick up mutators, for lack of a better term, that tweak your abilities. Maybe extend the duration of that freeze or let you use the ability multiple times in a row before it goes on cooldown. You also pick up weapons, and the weapons have their own unique things going on. It could be a flaming dagger that you throw, like a kunai, or it could be a bazooka or a Gatling gun.
So is this like co-op roguelike? So when you say
Yes.
something like that, my mind goes to Risk of Rain.
Sort of, but it is not a...
Except not 2D. So Risk of Rain 2.
Well, yeah, but Risk of Rain has that whole thing where...
Risk of Rain is becoming gradually more frantic over time.
Yeah, that is not what's happening here. Is basically you are making your way through a number of levels, and then you fight a boss, and then you go to a different world. So like the first one is like a tomb. The second one is out in the desert. I have not made it any further than that.
The third one has octopus enemies. And catfish and lobsters.
Go ahead.
All of the different characters that you can play are animal human hybrids of a sort. So very Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, because like that's what I think of everything as is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I think it is entirely determined on what your first anthropomorphic animal experience was. For me, it was TMNT. For others, it's Sonic. But yeah, it's fun as hell. Like it can be real dumb. There can be times where things just go real poorly, and maybe just dying and getting your talent points so that you can make some picks and try to have a better run next time.
Sometimes the stars align and you get your favorite weapon and all the upgrades you wanted and can murder all the things. But yeah. it's really fun. I played a bunch of it this morning and then played together with Bel for a couple tries this afternoon, and it's also reassuring that it's fun solo, and it's just as fun, if not more so, with a friend, and it didn't really matter that one of us played more than the other. We we were fine to go through and murder things together, and yeah, and just the random loot drops scratch that Diablo loot itch, so that was nice. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like it's really interesting the combinations of weapons that you end up getting, and it kind of has a destiny system to where there's 3 kinds of ammo. So you kind of have to be cognizant of what ammo you're spending. If things go real bad, you still have your original gun that has infinite ammo.
But you can only pick up 2 weapons in addition to your standard gun. So you're only really juggling 2 kinds of ammo at most.
Right.
And yeah, and then the different characters have different ultimates and things. The cat lets you freeze things, and the dog lets you equip both of your weapons at the same time and just murder things. It's pretty great.
That was my favorite Borderlands 2 ultimate.
But like, what level are you now, Grace?
I think I just hit 50.
Yeah, and I'm not yet 25, but there didn't seem to be any difference in our power necessarily.
No, because you're starting every game with the basic level 1 weapons at yes, if you have more talent points, you might start with a little extra money, or have some 1 to 5% increases in things, but I still died a lot. It didn't matter.
Well, and like one of the talent points that you can unlock pretty early is the ability to start with a weapon from a chest that's before you start going into the dungeon. And it'll just be a pick from a random selection of weapons. But I mean, it's perfectly fine to just start with your base weapon, because it kind of builds over time. The first floor is pretty easy, and it kind of ramps up after that. There are hidden rooms that you can go in and fight different sorts of encounters in the hidden rooms.
Bosses and traps and swarms of things.
There is one mini boss that we decided just is not worth fighting.
I did manage to kill it by myself, but it took just kiting it back and forth across the entire room until
was
I
awful.
finally killed it.
It was
out
real
of
awful.
line. It was way out of line with the other ones.
There seems to be some aspect of randomization as to what bosses you face in what order. Because like at least we know there's 2 bosses that can appear in place of the boss at the end of World 1.
So I think, yeah, there's that second one is sort of the random one you might get sometimes.
Okay.
The other one is sort of the standard boss at World 1.
I find the second boss way easier than the first boss. Because like the first boss is like a tiger character that leaps around and summons ads, and the second boss is like a golem, but it's so big that you're only actually seeing like head and arms and torso, and it summons these rocks into the arena, and sometimes you have to hide behind them, sometimes you have to run away from them because they're exploding. Sometimes he throws rocks at you and you can shoot them down from the air. But like the rhythm of that one seemed easier to me than the tiger boss.
I felt the opposite, but but the golem boss, I don't know if it had less health or what, but it definitely, every time I fought it, it has died faster than the tiger boss. But tiger boss, if you time things right, is pretty easy to avoid.
Well, like the thing with the tiger boss is if you ever stop attacking him, he'll put back up his shield, and you have to whittle down the stupid shield again.
Yeah, that's why it takes so long, and that is annoying. But the shield mechanic is nice because you get a shield too.
It's very Halo, because like the shield shatters very visibly whenever you're out of shield. It is amazing how long you can go off of just shield and almost no health, because like your health will not regenerate on its own. There are drops that you encounter that are like little bowls of rice. At least that's
They're
what they look like to
buns.
me. Oh, they're buns? Okay. They looked like bowls of rice to me. But yeah, like so like there's just a bunch of random perks that you pick up. Like there's this really dumb one that sets you on fire but increases your damage. So you're slowly killing yourself.
I like that character in Borderlands also.
Yeah, so always take that.
No, it's real
That one
bad.
definitely killed me. Although I eventually found the scroll that's the the antidote to that, which will make you immune to fire damage, and then you can set yourself on fire as much as you want.
I still want to know if that scroll that I found that basically made me immune to cursed scrolls would have also countered it.
I don't think so, because I don't think
sound
that
cursed.
was.
That sounds like a thing you actually want.
Yeah, I don't think
Cough.
that was not a cursed scroll. They pretty obviously tell you when you get a cursed scroll.
Okay, maybe I've not seen a cursed scroll yet. I assume they come from the sentient chests that you talk to. There are treasure chests that you make deals with to get stuff. Yeah, which doesn't sound sketchy at all.
It sounds like there's a lot more there than when I played it last.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on in this game.
Because I played it.
Some amount of that was there when we played it, but we played it crazy early.
Yeah, we did play it really early.
I mean, this has been out
and also
3
I didn't
years.
get very far.
Yeah, I didn't either, because there wasn't. I was just like, I can only play it. It had the problem that I have with so many of these games, where it's like, oh, look at all of the things you can play. You can only play this one. Get out.
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean,
don't like
it's
this one.
it's
like,
still
well,
that way.
I mean,
it's
that's
still
definitely
that way.
You have to level up or save up a bunch of the points that you would use to spend on your talent points. You could save them up instead and spend them on a different character.
Yeah, and I think that I ended up doing the math, and it was like, oh, I would need to play as this character I don't like 40 times. And I don't know if that's different or better, but
the only thing that I do not love is when one of your party members dies, there's not a great way to get your party member back.
You can, but you have to be real quick about it. And apparently I discovered that there are talents that will both speed up how fast you recover an ally and extend the timer that you have for your allies to res you. But that, also means that you're going to have to choose that at the expense of other interesting things to spend your talent points on, which is a little annoying.
Yeah, those are points that I could spend on something interesting instead of a thing that only happens if I fall down.
Yeah, and I mean it's very much like rezzing somebody in Guild Wars 2, but you maybe have like 10 seconds max to go res somebody. It's a real short time.
That part doesn't feel great. And then if you miss that timer, then you either have to spend, what was it, like 400 and some gold?
Yeah, it was like 480 gold, which is like 2 weapon upgrades.
Ooh, yuck.
So
or you have to wait until the person who's left kills the boss at the end of all of the levels for that world. Then you can res outside of the boss's room, so you don't get any of the loot either.
That felt real
at least
bad.
Reses you at the start of the next level.
That felt real bad because like I was real close to finishing off the golem, and I could have probably resed Grace. Like I could have probably made it happen, but we were like, well, we'll just finish off the golem. And that's where we found out that you don't get any loot if you do that. So it's got some issues, but like the core gameplay loop was really enjoyable. I really liked doing vaults other than the one vault.
Other than that one guy. But yeah, and I don't always like shooter type games. Usually I'm a little bit averse to them, but this one is really fun. The weapons are interesting, and the fact that they're random is good for my brain. And the characters are cute and the enemies are cartoony, so I enjoy it.
I mean, there are a couple awful enemy types, like the snipers or the dudes with the flamethrowers, but most of them are fair within reason. So another thing that happened this week is Diablo Immortal released.
Yay!
And
Did it? So is it? It hadn't been released even on phones.
No, it hadn't been released until
Till just
second.
now.
Yeah.
Do people have phones now?
I mean,
So it
I
turns
feel
out
like
people do in fact have phones.
Do they have credit card?
Yeah, that's the real question is, don't you guys have credit cards?
Oh.
So here's I took a bullet because I figured I would want to talk about this game, and I downloaded it and tried it, and it requires about 2.6 gigs of space on your phone, which seems like a lot, but I mean, it is a AAA phone game, so
Yeah, it's less than like Dragalia Lost,
I guess that's true.
or a lot less than Genshin Impact.
So I don't even know where to start. It looks like Diablo and it sounds like Diablo, but it doesn't really feel like Diablo.
Oh.
And there's a bunch of ARPGs on the phone. And if you had told me that this was a crossover for Lineage, the mobile game, which is very Diablo-ish, I'd have believed you because it plays just like every other ARPG on a phone that I've played. And like, there's a certain aspect of Diablo that, for me, like, Diablo is about...
It's more complicated than pressing buttons as soon as they come off cooldown.
Right, basically. Yeah, like Diablo is about, having, resources and, builders and spenders and the interplay of this ability does this with this other ability. But, so far, like, everything that I have done in Diablo Immortal very much feels like I just want to mash the button as soon as it comes off cooldown. And I don't know, like it just doesn't feel very Diablo-y. I mean, an example is I've been breaking barrels in Diablo since Diablo 1 and expecting them to like give me things, like even if it's a little bit of gold, but the vast majority of objects in this world are not breakable. And the ones that are just are breakable. They don't do anything. There's no random loot from breaking barrels or smashing jugs or any of that stuff. So like there's just a bunch of like little things that collectively make it feel not like Diablo. And it's also got the trope that every other mobile phone ARPG has where you're building an ultimate meter, and when you hit the ultimate ability, it mostly just shifts you into God mode for a few minutes, so that it feels awful anytime you're not in ultimate, because everything else is kind of slow and cumbersome for combat. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that's to make you want to buy power, but so it's real aggressive in telling you that there's things that you should be buying. And that's not unusual for phone games. But what is driving me nuts about their specific monetization scheme is you're given, you're told that you finish the first dungeon and kill the Skeleton King, and you're told that you've won the ability to buy the Trove of the Mad King, and it's a 800% value, and it's 99 cents, and it comes with some legendary crests, which are basically this game's gacha mechanic. And
they don't just like give you enough currency to make a bull.
No.
Why would they?
They give you some legendary crests, and they give you 60 of their currency. And this is the part that drives me nuts about this is there's nothing you can buy on the store for 60 of their currency. And a lot of times,
A lot
of times when one of these packs happens And like I've seen it in lots of phone games. You can buy something with it. It's not what you want to buy with it, but there's something you can spend that currency on.
Well, especially usually with the first one of whatever it is in this sort of game, they give you enough so that you get a taste. You know, enough so you can make a pull and go.
Like I said, enough for one pull.
Yeah,
is what I normally expect to see.
And
usually just over that amount.
No, it is.
I want you to have a little left over.
It is exactly half the amount that you need to have for a single pull.
Wow.
The other thing that I've heard about this, because I haven't tried it, I'm still staying away from Blizzard games for the time being. But the thing that bothered me, and I don't know, I don't play phone ARPGs, so maybe this is a normal thing. But in most of the other mobile style games that I've played, a free-to-play player can technically get a chance to get all of the things. They just have a low chance, or it might take them a really long time. And my understanding in this one is that for some of the legendary gems, you just can't get them.
Right.
If you're a free player.
Yeah, so there's two kinds of crests that you can get. One is a legendary crest, and those are only purchased, you can only get them on the shop. And the other one is a basic crest, and you get some of those rewarded to you through the game. And it is impossible to pull a 5-star legendary gem on a basic crest. It's impossible to pull a 3-star legendary gem on a basic pull. Like, the only thing that you can get is 1 and 2 stars. And I think there's a mechanic where you can merge enough copies of things together to eventually upgrade it to a 5-star, but there's just no way for you to natively get one of those. And gems are what give your abilities the thing that makes it feel somewhat like Diablo, where there's some kind of interplay between abilities. Also, gems are the things that you can get that, like, make your ultimate fill faster so that you can feel stronger more often. And there's been some math that folks have done that at worst case odds, it would cost $50,000 to max out a single legendary gem.
This is making Battlefront 2 look generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real not good. There's people that are real happy with the gameplay it's providing, but I don't know. This seems like this is a bridge that has now been crossed. Because kind of up until this point, Blizzard had walked a thin line with their monetization.
It was a mobile game. They were going to monetize it like a mobile game.
Yeah, but this makes Genshin feel real generous.
It makes many gacha-style mobile games feel real generous from what I hear.
Yeah.
Which is impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
And Genshin's real predatory. It's real predatory. This is almost a whole other level. So I don't know where this is going.
There's no kind way to say this other than they're probably going after exclusively the whales.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that apparently mega whales are being referred to as kraken.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it checks out.
But this feels like it falls into the thing where, there have to be other people playing the game. That's the thing for most of these. You need the whales, but you also need the other people. If you drive all of them off, then there's no game.
There needs to be leaderboards that the whales can sit at the top of. And
so that's one aspect of the game that I don't love, and it makes me real concerned about Diablo 4. So one of the big things that Diablo 4 was adding was a multiplayer open world. And Diablo Immortal has a multiplayer open world. And it feels real weird to have a bunch of random people in your Diablo game.
No.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And there's no opt out for it either. You're running through the overworld with a bunch of other people. And I don't love that.
I kind of feel like that's like a very not Diablo kind of thing.
I mean, it's just like a lot of these other ARPGs that exist on mobile, and it's the same kind of thing that existed with Lost Ark.
I was going to say Torchlight 3.
Yeah, Torchlight 3 had that thing going on too. Yeah.
At least you could opt out there.
Also, when you go into like any area where you actually fight things, it's just you.
Yeah, that is not the case here. You can choose to either queue with random people for dungeons or go into them by yourself. And I was at least able to do King Leoric in that dungeon by myself. And the dungeons were weird too, because they're more like a WoW instance. Because like King Leoric's area, I think had 3 bosses total.
Oh, okay.
Including I think it was like 3 bosses, and then you fought Leoric. So it was more like a dungeon crawl, WoW instance style thing going on.
I mean, Diablo has that going on. Has had that going on too for a while. Like there's this boss on floor 7, and then there's the actual boss on floor 15 or whatever.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I get in that terms, yeah, but I don't think of those as being part of the same dungeon crawl. They're just a bunch of different maps, and there's just different bosses on different maps. I don't know. It is very much not for me. There was also like something wrong with the 2 different ways I tried to play it. So I tried to play it on PC. I tried to play it on mobile. I tried to play it with keyboard and mouse on PC and controller on PC. And there were little things that didn't work right in both modes. Like on controller, there were a bunch of things that I just couldn't quite interact with that I had to actually turn around and click on with a mouse. And then there was no way to like make it control like I make Diablo control with keyboard and mouse. And then on touchscreen, there's just always the problem of, a touchscreen interface. The pseudo thumbstick with buttons on the side layout that every ARPG has. I mean, it's a thing, but it's not great. But you could at least by default use a controller with the mobile client, which is a thing I wish more games did by default.
Would support.
Yeah, just support a controller.
Yeah.
Because like Genshin still doesn't support a controller on mobile.
I think it does on some devices, just not.
Well, it does on
Android, I think.
Yeah, it does on iOS, but not on Android.
I see how it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, what about that Switch port? Is that ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Would that game really run on? I mean, I guess it runs on phones, but a lot of phones are more powerful than Switch nowadays.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, like the other night, I was gonna play Diablo Immortal from bed with my phone and my GameSir controller that kind of turns it into a Switch-like occasion. And instead, I just hung out in bed and played Torchlight 3 and gave it another shot. Because Diablo Immortal was very much not what I was looking for.
Was Torchlight 3?
Torchlight 3 is actually kind of fun with the new class that they released, which is the Ghost Pirate Captain thing.
Their class design kind of cracks me up.
It's not great. And actually...
I mean, it's been fun. Some of them have been better than others.
Right. I will say Torchlight Infinite, which is the new mobile game that they're in beta right now, is probably a better mobile ARPG than, Diablo Immortal for certain, but like maybe also a better Torchlight game than Torchlight 3. But yeah, I mean, playing on a phone with a controller, wrapped around it, makes a great Steam remote play app. I don't know. I think it will be interesting to see if they ease up at all on some of this monetization. Because like there's certainly been a lot of people complaining about it already.
Are they motivated? I mean, I don't know. Like, again, if they are just trying to like find the people who are willing to put $30,000 into a game,
I don't know. I can't say. I mean, there surely aren't enough of them in the world to support a game. And better question yet, why the hell would anybody do that? Like, I don't understand. I just don't
You can
understand.
get Diablo 3 for like $20.
I mean, for now.
I mean, and it feels like a Diablo game.
How long do you figure before they shut the Diablo 3 servers down to...
Oh, don't tell me that, please. I keep hoping that, you know, that maybe things will improve and I can return to playing Diablo 3 without, you know, feeling bad about it. Anyway, what were you going to say, Tam?
I was just going to say, like, if you've got $30,000 to drop on a game, you could just buy a Steam Deck.
Right, exactly. You buy like several of them.
You can buy a Steam Deck and pay somebody else to set it up so you can play Diablo on it.
You can buy a Steam Deck and like 50 ships in Star Citizen.
I do wonder how well Star Citizen would run on a Steam Deck.
Don't.
It's.
I mean, people have made it run on a Steam Deck, but don't.
Yeah.
Does the Steam Deck have the critical 32 gigs of RAM?
Look, no.
There's
several other things it doesn't have either that you might want.
Does it have the SSD?
Yes.
It does have that.
Okay. So the irony is, though, I've watched some numbers on this, and the Steam Deck actually loads games faster off of a SD card than the SSD.
No, the SSD is there so that your swap file is on an SSD.
I don't know what Voodoo Valve did, but they've run the numbers, and the games literally launch faster off of an SD card than off of an SSD.
Nice.
So that cheap one is a perfectly viable option.
Well, it probably depends on the speed of your SD card, because that's also a thing.
Yeah, I mean, okay. You have to have like one of the class 10 SD cards.
I was about to say, and if you're talking about a game that it has a SD card only and no SSD, that wouldn't work because you really need the SSD for a swap file to make if you don't have 32 gigs of RAM. I feel like Star Citizen is positioning itself very well to be the game of the future, currently in development today. For the future when 32 gigs of memory on your computer is just assumed to be normal.
It can just be a new Crisis.
Isn't that now?
That's how games are developed.
I know.
Like the Star Citizen thing is always fascinating to me. So, I mean, on the topic of Star Citizen, I have been watching a lot of Star Citizen discourse because they had their Free Fly week this past week, and the Free Fly week brings a bunch of new people in, and new people are like, what in the actual, this game won't run unless you have a godlike PC. And like,
yep.
Yes.
I mean, that is not a wrong statement.
I mean,
I feel like we've been in the 16 gig era for a really long time, and no game has been really willing to push past it.
Yeah, but the problem is we haven't gone to the everything releases with 16 gigs era. Mm-hmm. I mean, most things are still shipping with 8 gigs in them.
Yeah, but if you're a gaming PC, like if you're building a gaming rig, you're probably putting 16 gigs in because the general advice you go see online is 16 gigs is enough for any game.
Absolutely.
If you look at builders who are like, this is the good computer, it's up to 64.
Right.
I mean, that's what I just put in mine.
Yeah, upper middle tier is 32 right now. It's just that, like, if you're building a new computer, if you're doing the thing where it's like, buy one of these computers that'll still be good for 5 years, like 32 gigs is what it's coming with.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure if you ask, I'm building, like, what specs should I get if I am building myself a gaming PC? I still think
32 gigs of RAM. You should get a graphics card with 8 gigs of RAM at least.
Yeah, I do.
We have kind of come that far at this point.
I just don't know a lot of games that really tax the RAM that are out there.
Most tag your graphics RAM a lot harder.
Yeah.
Except online multiplayer games.
Yeah, online multiplayer games hit your RAM, and those are by far the most popular games right now.
Well, I mean, it depends on the type of game as well, because like if you really want to do city skylines at maximum resolution, you need a really high core count CPU. Because it is extremely CPU bound instead of graphical bound.
Well, and the other thing that's going on is that you can get away with 16 gigs because you can run a game on low or medium settings.
Mm-hmm.
And games look good enough that you're not going to miss low or medium settings. That's kind of what's happening with Star Citizen. It doesn't have low or medium settings implemented yet.
Right.
Like that's all. There's a whole bunch of like LODs and performance optimizations and like texture swaps and so forth that just haven't been done yet. Which is why, like, if you go to somebody and say, I want to run the hottest games on the absolute screaming fastest graphics, then you're going to get a much higher tier PC. And that's also, incidentally, that is also what Star Citizen is doing. Like that's the comparison. But for most things, yeah, you don't need more than 16 gigs if you just want to run it.
Well, and how the Steam Deck is getting by with running what all it's running is it's only got a 720p resolution, really.
Yeah, it's got a tiny screen.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with like Steam, or the Switch looks much better in handheld than it does on a TV because it's got a little screen.
Way less work pushing pixels on the handheld screen versus when it's hooked up to a TV.
I can
That
tell
said, many games also ratchet down their settings in handheld mode because for battery reasons.
Yeah.
Which is why Xenoblade 2 looks kind of terrible in handheld mode.
I watched a video this week on what it takes to get Final Fantasy XIV running on the Steam Deck, and it was some nonsense that
sounds like a disaster.
It was madness. It really was. Like, and this person was trying to like be all cheerful about it as they were going through the steps, and there were so many steps. You know, like if you've got to run commands as, you know, sudo this and sudo that, you have outstripped most of the user base for that device.
So what we're hearing is that Bel, you'll be doing this next week.
I mean, I have to get Uncle Gaben to send me a letter.
Oh, that's not happening for me for a while.
I know. It's like I'm so far down on the list. It's not even funny. I mean, I will eventually have one, and I will make it do stupid things, I'm sure, because that is my nature.
It seems like a great little device.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I've heard is that it was really good, but had problems, and oh wait, a week has passed, and those problems have been patched. They're real aggressive on their patch cycle right now.
Everyone I know, it makes me think of the Valve Index. It's like the inverse of the Valve Index. Like everybody I know, myself largely included, who has a Valve Index was like, this thing is so cool. And then they are like, well, we played all of the things that are cool on here. It's like, it's cool, but I don't have anything to play on it. Whereas everybody on the Steam, I know who's got a Steam Deck is like, oh yeah, it's pretty much all right. I just use it every single day.
So the one thing that
I've point out that a lot of people with an Index or various other headset-like devices, they're very popular for things like VR chat. They're less popular for things like actual games.
Yes, that's also true. I don't really spend any time in VR chat. I will say that on the topic of RAM, Half-Life Alyx, I cranked it up because I had to fix my computer and it was like, all right, let's see what it does. And that sure pinged 28 gigs of RAM. Like it was nothing.
I think one of the coolest things that's coming out of the Steam Deck is actually making all these games work on Linux, but more than that, dusting off SteamOS as a thing and making it viable again. Like, because you can now throw it on a desktop, and it's perfectly reasonable to use that as your main distro.
I didn't actually realize that was a thing. I might do that to an old laptop.
That is a thing. I don't know how well it's going to handle variances in laptop hardware, but it is absolutely a thing. You know, so the idea of, oh, I can actually game on this device again that's an older device is possibly a thing. And if you make gaming more viable on Linux, you're probably getting closer to making desktop Linux more viable for the average user. So I think there's going to be some interesting trickle-on effects of this in the coming years. So speaking of space madness, this is a topic that has been on here for a really long time. X4 Foundations.
You're not going to read the subtitle?
Or what does $1 billion get you?
$500 million.
$500 million get you.
Yeah. So we were talking about Star Citizen earlier. Star Citizen has I'm not going to call it a vibrant community, but certainly a community of vocal detractors. Where like it's for whatever reason, because it's the internet, the thing is Star Citizen is a scam. We have our whole community about putting Star Citizen on blast. And the thing that comes up is, why don't you just play another better space game? Like, okay.
And X4 is a lot of times the thing people bring up, I assume. I have one friend that is super into X4 and has tried to evangelize X4 to me so many times.
Yeah. Well, and that was sort of the thing, was like, okay, I have heard so much of this, so much about X4 Foundations. It's like, I feel like playing a space game, but at the time I was waiting for a Star Citizen patch, which has since come. But like, I don't know, let's give it a shot. Let's see what the competition is like. And you're going to hear, for obvious reasons, you're going to hear a lot of comparisons to Star Citizen here. But I think that if you asked Kodra, he would say that the current onboarding experience to Star Citizen is unacceptably obtuse and bug prone.
Yeah. Granted, it's a lot less bug prone once you have the minimum viable requirements.
Sure.
But yes, it definitely is a game that needs somebody else who knows how to play it with you. If you don't want to grind your face in to learn it on your own, which thank you, Tam, for doing that.
Yeah, X4 is worse.
Does not surprise me.
Like worse enough that it's hard for me to understand how this game expects to bring in new players. I think it just doesn't.
I don't think it does. X4 expects that you have been bought into the franchise since X.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it's billed as the best way to get into the series for a new player.
And that is probably technically true.
It may be. But so here's the thing. X4, like Elite Dangerous, which is a game that I also think has issues getting into it, has a lengthy tutorial. And by lengthy, I mean it's like an hour of gameplay. If you're new and you're like looking for buttons and you're like, oh, that button's not convenient, let me rebind it, and the usual, hey, I don't know how to play this game, I'm going through the tutorial to understand basic controls and even what controls they expect me to know. It's like an hour. It was like an hour. Like, I did it over 2 play sessions. And the whole thing just has it's got a lot of how do you even know you're supposed to do this problems, which is, again, that's not, I'm not surprised by it, but you go through the whole tutorial and then it's like, cool, go ahead and start the game. And you start the game and it drops you in an empty hangar. I was like, go. Like, is my ship here? Do I go somewhere? Are there missions? Where do I even find the missions? Is there, like, what am I even supposed to do here? And it lacks and this is sort of where I get to what does $500 million get you? The thing about Star Citizen for me is that when you log in the first time, you're like, oh, wow, this is gorgeous. The fact that I have no idea where I'm supposed to go is sort of elided by the fact that it's honestly kind of cool to just walk around these exquisitely rendered places, assuming it runs properly, because they're absolutely gorgeous. Like, just getting on the subway or whatever and going to a different place is actually cool. And here it's not. Like, it is visually not that compelling. And so I'm like, okay, how do I get to the part where this is interesting? Versus, wow, this is really compelling. Like, I am compelled enough aesthetically that it doesn't bother me as much that I don't know what to do. And it's like one of the few times where I feel like most of the time I don't think that graphics matter in games. And this is one of the few times where I've played one and I've been like, they actually sometimes do. Because like, I wandered around and I was like, there's nothing. It's hard for me to wander around and be like, wow, this game is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm wandering around like, wow, this game is beautiful, the fact that I'm not actually that's a thing that I'm doing, not and that is just like, hey, I just want to wander around here. Maybe I'm distracted from whatever it is I was going to do.
Right. You talked about that with Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, same sort of thing where it's like I am not the most rabid like graphics person, but also they can make a difference. And this is definitely one of those places where it's like I want to enjoy this game because I feel like there's a lot there, but it gives you just so little onboarding of any kind that and it's it's huge. There's all kinds of things you can do, but like if I don't even know what there is to do, I can't get excited about any of it.
Well, and the problem is if you talk to somebody who's super into the game, it sounds like they're playing a spreadsheet. Because like the friend of mine that is super into the game, he leaves a machine running 24/7 so that he can have automated bots running around the galaxy trading resources and making him money, and I don't know why he's doing any of that. Because nothing he's described to me sounds like fun. Like, you're not telling me anything that sounds like fun. You're playing a galactic stock market.
I can make the numbers go up.
Yeah.
And this is how a lot of people play Star Citizen.
It is. And I have the same like, what are you even doing? When people start talking about like, oh, credit, I found the best way to make the most amount of credits per hour. And I'm like, why?
But why? This is actually a big problem I have currently with Star Citizen is I don't feel like I understand why I am trying to make credits in many cases.
Yeah. Well, and the answer is it doesn't really matter. It's a sandbox.
Because there's nothing else to do.
Exactly.
Like, going after like I don't even go after credits when I play. I'm like, hey, what's an interesting play experience that I either want to have or haven't had?
I do feel like I asked the question, what's the point? And the correct answer is the point is to go into space and do fun things. And I am somehow unsatisfied by that answer. But that's my problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's like the purest sandbox MMO that's been released in a while. And like there's a reason that people stop making those. It turns out not a lot of people actually really go in for that. And the people who do extremely do.
I mean, econ PvPers are a thing.
Oh, yes.
But like, I also don't understand where they're getting joy from the game because I'm not wired that way. Like, money is a means to an end. Like, accumulating wealth just for the sake of accumulating wealth has never made sense to me in a game or in the real world.
I mean, there's a dude I know who's jumped from X4 to Elite Dangerous to X4 to Star Citizen, and like all he wants to do is be a space trucker, which is like I want to have a big honking ship full of cargo and move that cargo around. I want to be like a space tractor trailer driver. And like, do I get it? No, but more power to him.
I mean, to be fair, like in Eve, the only thing I actually found enjoyable was going and mining things and hauling it back to port and selling it. I found that relaxing, but also after a bit of it, I realized why am I doing this? Like, is there a point to this other than just to find a reason to play Eve? Because it didn't seem to be adding to anything that I actually wanted to do more. I mean, and I kind of feel the same way about the people who live in specific maps in Guild Wars 2 because they're trying to keep up their gold per hour at a certain level. What do you need this money for?
More legendaries.
Apparently.
I mean, numbers go up. There are definitely, and to some extent, I get it. There's definitely some amount of, appeal to, I made my numbers bigger. I am increasingly not motivated by making my numbers bigger.
Yeah, I mean, X4 is weird. I do not get it. I have tried to get it because I have been sold on it so many times.
Yeah, I really was hoping I would like it.
I know there's a lot of stuff going on in it. That's,
to me, there's a just pure joy in Here, this is my spaceship. I'm gonna fly around in space, doing space things. And like it's been a long time since I've had a game that really like leaned into that.
Ah, space. The one place uncorrupted by capitalism.
Incorrect.
I mean, hell, I was in a Swig emulator for a while just to fly around in a starfighter.
So Tam, how deep are you wanting to go into Strange New Worlds?
I mean, it's hard to go very deep into it without spoilers, so not very.
Yeah, because I plan on watching this at some point. I just haven't started.
Yeah, same.
So Star Trek is hard to get into. Let me start there. Because you either have like name an entry point into Star Trek for somebody who's never gotten into it.
Oof.
Right?
I mean, number one, not the first season of pretty much any series.
Yeah, so okay. So you've already said don't get into Star Trek in the first season of anything.
Yeah.
It's a tall order, but okay.
Uh-huh.
And now you're like, okay, so not DS9, because DS9 is kind of a weird Star Trek offshoot.
Like
it is the least Star Trekky of Star Trekky things.
Yeah, like maybe next gen, but if you try to do Voyager, you're like,
yeah, Voyager and DS9 both like going into those with no existing knowledge of next generation, like that just doesn't seem like it would work very well.
I mean, an original series is kind of nostalgic, but also kind of awful at times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to recommend somebody load up the original series.
I mean, of what I've watched, possibly Lower Decks.
Yeah, right.
Because they're nice and short, and I mean, they're really Star Trekky.
They are. They are, and it's at some level it's sort of easy to be like, haha, Star Trek is dumb via Lower Decks, except that Lower Decks is surprisingly Lower Decks is a comedy that is actually faithful to the source material, which is really weird to me.
Yeah, it pokes fun, but it does it extremely lovingly.
Yeah. And like Enterprise, I don't think anybody liked. Maybe somebody liked Enterprise.
It had its moments, but again, I would definitely not recommend it to someone who had never seen any Star Trek.
Right.
Definitely
and the closest thing I got to was Discovery, but Discovery is very Voyager-like in that it's an overarching plot. Like each season is a significant overarching plot, and everything is kind of in service to that plot. It's very like modern, what you think of as modern TV.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, because pretty much everything has to have an ongoing, like at least season-long plot these days, which in a lot of ways I really like. But
it's hard to have. One of the criticisms of Discovery, which I think is a reasonable one, is that anytime it's like, why did we dither for 6 episodes, not solving the big thing and doing all of this random side crap with these characters? And I'm like, well, because that's Star Trek. But also, when you have a big looming threat, it doesn't make sense to do all of these asides.
Yeah, like we really haven't. None of the things post Next Generation have had that. It's a ship going on a mission to lots of different places, and so there's new things every episode because like they're in a new place every episode.
Yeah,
Voyager had some of that, but also the ongoing, how are we going to get home, and then like Borg and I don't know, all sorts of weirdness.
I mean, Voyager was the Mass Effect Andromeda to Mass Effect.
I do think, having seen a little bit of it, one of the reasons Lower Decks kind of works is because comedy cartoons are able to be more episodic than serious dramas anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it is still like there is a bit of a through line going on, because sure, there's going to be a bit of a through line in any Star Trek, but like mostly it's going to be a very episodic. Like the
through lines in Lower Decks tend to be like
very
character driven.
Yes.
Like it's not a big looming thing that threatens the ship. Is what's going to happen now that we know that character's mom is that person.
Yeah. How is that character going to respond? How are the other characters going to like start reacting to them differently? It's very character focused.
And thus we get to Strange New Worlds, which has clearly taken notes from Lower Decks and has clearly taken notes from Firefly, and has said, okay, we're going to do an episodic show where all of our overarching plots are character arcs. And boy, it works.
All right.
Like,
yeah, everything I've heard about it, like it definitely sounds like what I want from Star Trek. So
it is positioning it as a pre-Kirk Enterprise.
Yeah, with Pike in charge.
With Pike in charge is great. Pike is great. Like Anson Mount as Pike is a very good captain.
It's really inventing the Rosetta Stone that Star Trek probably needed, because it's early enough in the time frame for it to be able to act as a point of reference for everything to come after that.
Yeah, and it's got lots of nods to other Trek. Sometimes a little heavy on it. Sometimes they're like just barely this side of trying too hard, if they're even on this side of trying too hard. But I'm not completely immune to like calculated tactical strikes on my nostalgia, at least as far as Star Trek is concerned. You should, if you haven't, you should find the what is it, the intro theme, the intro sequence for an episode, and just watch that, because I know it's on YouTube somewhere, but it's the thing where you have the captain narrating about space, and it is making some real like 60s 70s beats in there, while also hitting all of the next gen beats.
Cool.
So long as they can stay the hell away from the Borg, they'll probably be fine.
I mean,
because that was the problem with Enterprise.
Pike never knew about the Borg, right?
They have to stay away from the Borg.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying that's what happened with Enterprise. So
they would have to do some real crazy bullshit to have the Borg show up, and not like they could manage something like Q. The Borg, that would be rough.
What I will say is they don't need the Borg. They have the Gorn.
Ooh, wait, the Gorn are actually threatening?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Right. This is they went back to the original series and are like, hey, what are the threats of the original series? Let's bring those back. Maybe we can have the Gorn that is not just a lizard rubber suit guy. Like, why are they scary? Oh,
they enumerate that very quickly.
I mean, hopefully Pike doesn't fight it with a penis-shaped rock.
I will not spoil the Gorn episode.
Okay.
I mean, because if you think about it, there's like, especially in original Trek and to a lesser degree in Next Generation, there are a lot of alien races that only ever showed up like once.
Yeah.
And
they can mine that all day long.
Yeah.
Especially because most of the time, like, the alien race that they're spending the most amount of time going into are the Vulcans, who haven't gotten a lot of screen time in a long time.
They really haven't.
Like, they get a bunch of screen time in Discovery, and now you're getting a bunch of screen time as Spock with Spock. But also, like, the other piece of that is, I think the thing that was missing from other Star Treks that this has in spades is it has things to say.
Good.
The first episode was precision calculated to make a whole lot of a certain kind of person quite mad. I think.
Yeah, because I know I've seen, like, kind of from a distance, that fight going on online, and yeah, I'm definitely like on the side of, like, Star Trek always had a lot to say about social issues, and sometimes it was real ham-handed about it, but it always had a lot to say.
In the first 5 episodes, we have hit modern day politics, racism, being a third culture kid, various trauma responses, like, and thoughtfully. And that's what I'm here for Star Trek to be doing. That's what it should be doing. And it's also just like luridly colorful.
Wait, a science fiction television show in the year 2022 is allowed to be colorful?
Oh yeah. You know that
I'm-
green dress uniform that Kirk used to wear?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's back. It's even brighter, more vibrant than before.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
no, I'm entirely here for this.
it is not shying away. It somehow feels modern while being really retro in a lot of ways. Like, you look at it and you can see how you get to the original series visuals as far as uniforms and like starships and so on go.
So we also don't have the weird situation where the Enterprise is mysteriously much more modern and high tech looking than the original did.
I mean, it is more modern and more high tech looking because it's not some plastic dishes taped together.
Right.
But you look at it and you're like, that's the Enterprise. That's the we talked a few weeks back about like pixel games, like modern 16-bit games. You know how modern when you play a modern 16-bit game, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I remember these being like visually.
That's not what they were actually like.
It's not what they're actually like, but it's what you remember.
Right.
This is the Star Trek that I remember. Like, this is the Star Trek from my memory, except that my memory was from a child, and that child was a lot more easily impressed. And this is kind of my, like, Strange New Worlds is a thing that I can point at and be like, okay, try this. If you still don't like this, probably you just don't like Star Trek. But it's at least it's a starting point that I can be like, I can full-throatedly, and have been clearly supporting.
Actually, it just occurred to me the other thing that I might possibly recommend is an on board for Star Trek would be the original animated series. But this sounds like an even better on board than that.
That is okay. You're not wrong, but
I mean,
that is the weirdest left field intro. But also, I guess
it was good. It was really good.
It was fantastic. Like, it was low quality filmation animation, but the stories and all of that, like, it was Star Trek. And it was Star Trek after they had spent 3 seasons of live action figuring out who these characters were and, getting it all working. Like the best single episode of Star Trek with the original crew played by the original actors is an animated episode.
They also are. I also appreciate that they're taking a lot of the old characters and injecting new life into them, like Nurse Chapel.
Yeah, I know you said that Nurse Chapel is getting a lot of screen time, which
Nurse Chapel is getting a ton of screen time. She was like a kind of weird afterthought in the original series.
Yeah, like she was in a decent number of episodes, but like never.
Because a lot of people got hurt.
Yeah, never as a main character. Like,
yeah, she's absolutely more main character-ish now, and is bringing just an unbelievable amount of Kate McKinnon energy. It's like she's explicitly a civilian, and as such, she sure doesn't act with the same level of decorum as everybody else on the crew does. And it seems to kind of relish that, and I think that's great. She's great. Young Uhura gets a ton more screen time and is really interesting. It's good. There's a lot there, and I'm very excited. This week was their silly episode, because Star Trek has silly episodes, and I appreciate that they have leaned just all the way in when they're doing silliness. And this one is specifically for Bel and Thalen and probably Grace and Ammo. One of the bridge officers is one Lon Noonien Singh.
Oh no.
Wow.
Oh.
Oh my.
Yep. And she knows, and she knows that that's your reaction. It is a lovely Easter egg for longtime Trek fans without really, you don't need to know why to understand the show. But it does have that, like, oh, that's yikes.
You have my attention.
So yeah, that's my stinger for for that one because it's good. It's worth your it's worth just at least the first episode is worth your time, because if you watch the first episode and you're like, this was good, none of the episodes I have watched since have gone down in quality. It has gotten to the point where my wife and I have been like, when does the next episode come out? How soon can we watch it? And she didn't care one iota about Star Trek previously. She's like, yeah, my mom was really into it, and I tried watching a few original series episodes and they seemed pretty gross, so I stopped.
Whatever happened to the fan project where they were continuing the original series? Did that ever go anywhere?
I mean, they made it.
Did it go anywhere somebody would like to go? Also, follow rather.
I mean, I know they had Walter Koenig in an episode.
Yeah, like I remember watching 1 or 2 episodes, but I don't know if it ever got fully backed.
I have no idea.
And really went somewhere with it, because like it was really high quality. Like it was good. I would love to see somebody come along and actually finish the 5-year mission.
Renegades. The overt Star Trek elements and characters were removed from the web series to avoid legal complications.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
So about what you'd expect.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, because the film they made had both Chekhov and Tuvok in it.
Yeah. It was really well done. Anyway, that's probably the show.
I was going to say, speaking of TV we're watching, The Owl House is wrapped up, and I recommend you watch it.
It is on my list of things to watch. It was already on my list of things to watch, but I never quite got around to watching it.
Mine too. It's a very long list.
It is a long list.
It just keeps getting longer.
It's very good. It's got a very interesting aesthetic for a kid's show. Because there's definitely moments like, oh right, they live on the corpse of a giant.
That does seem to be the thing in like kids' cartoons these days, is cheerfully weird.
Well, it kind of gave me Gravity Falls vibes.
I was going to say, do we blame Gravity Falls for starting this?
We definitely, I mean, Alex Hirsch is also involved with this production.
Oh.
I mean, like that, Adventure Time.
Alex Hirsch is king.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, no. Alex Hirsch is the voice of King and Hootie. I've not actually seen all of Gravity Falls.
I haven't either,
It gets real
but I've
dark.
watched a lot of it.
This show also gets real dark.
Like like the climax of Gravity Falls is like on the same level as the climax of Mystery Incorporated.
Okay.
Holy crap, the stakes are high. This is really bad.
Yeah, so because the show was too gay, Disney had to cancel it or not give it a full season 3. So they had to do a very abridged season 3, but we are definitely in the pit of despair after this ending. But the show did not fit the Disney vibe, is the official word from the executive.
I mean, Gravity Falls was a Disney show, so.
But Gravity Falls wasn't real gay.
No, it wasn't.
No, this show's real gay. It's great. Highly recommend. But yeah, Disney, I don't know. They have a bunch of like the Disney like kids, Disney Junior or Disney XD channel had a bunch of really good shows that really would have been better if they were on Disney Plus, I think.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating. That's where I think like all of the good original Disney content is right now. At least for cartoons. I guess I'm going to get into fights if I say like I don't think Obi-Wan is good because I haven't seen it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good. It's not like, I don't think it's earth-shatteringly amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to watch more of it. I will say that Child Leia is earth-shatteringly amazing.
Yup.
I think that the actress at playing Child Leia would make Carrie Fisher smile.
Also, you have the problem with Obi-Wan where lots of Star Wars fans are super racist.
I mean,
And that is dominating
Yeah.
the discourse right now.
yeah, I've seen some of that too.
I mean, and
It is unsurprising and dumb.
I mean, there's this really weird thing that is happening where they're pointing to characters and like, no, we're not. See this character over here? I remember the same diatribe playing out for that character you're pointing at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you haven't gotten any better, Star Wars fans.
Sigh.
Fandom was a mistake.
It really
I don't-
was.
Fandom brings a lot of people together in really good ways.
I mean, it's good to like things. It's good to enjoy things. Maybe not always good to devote a huge chunk of your identity to that thing.
Well, it's good to not get into fights about things.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's an ending to a show. Any final thoughts about anything we talked about tonight?
Go forth and don't get into fights about things.
Exactly. Don't be a dick. And it's okay to not like things, but it's also okay for other people to like them too.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully you enjoy the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.